Hey everyone, how's it going? It is day 3 and we are back for the how to get out in nature and out of the chaos challenge. And today we are diving into the topic of beer, something that we all might be dealing with, and it shows up in different ways for each of us. So, how this might be showing up for you might be different than it shows up for me or for someone else. And so, I wanted to share with you in today's post, if you've already read it. I shared about the bear story that we were charged by a bear in 2015 in a meadow, and the circumstances were just, random. We were on a trail that was not very heavily traveled. We saw some bear scat, and as it turned out, we didn't see, hey, Koryani, hey, Sonia, thanks for joining me. So we were hiking down back to the car, and we were a couple miles away from the car. We didn't see any sign of bears in person. We just saw their poop. So we were like, okay, we're fine. We're just, trudging along. And as we came down across this creek, Jason stepped on a branch and it snapped. And hey, Barbara. And it snapped. And as, oh God, it's like that moment where you can just always remember what happened. I was behind him, and when he snapped the twig, I saw something jostle across the bushes, and Jason saw it differently than I did, which I actually wrote up this whole thing about his perspective and my perspective. And I thought it was a mountain lion because of her coloring. And I said, oh shit, it's a mountain lion. And Jason goes, oh God, he like immediately kind of started to panic. And then as he looks around, he sees a cub running up the tree, and he sees the mama bear down at the base of the tree. So he's like, oh, it's just a bear. And I'm like, oh my God. So after this trip, of course, we dubbed him Spirit Animal is the Bear, and which is totally 100% accurate. So when she saw us, she had sent the cub up the tree because we spooked them, and she sent the cub up the tree, and then she came, this was the scary part, she came charging toward us, which we later found out is called a bluff charge, and that's what they do to kind of assess the situation. I kind of think of it like, how back when you'd be like fronting someone or whatever, and you'd like go like that or whatever. I kind of think of it like that. So she was coming running across the meadow, and she's breaking tree branches that were downed of trees that were like yay big and long, but like that thick around, and they were snapping like twigs, and it was like, oh my God. And so Jason tells me, back up the trail and prepare to get small. Don't turn your back to her. So I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, I'm trying to process all this. And I'm like, what does prepare to get small mean? And okay, I'm backing up, and okay, so like, don't make eye contact. Okay, so like all these things are going through my head, right? And so, yeah, where's Spider-Man when you need him? Seriously, Barbara. So as I get back up the trail, Jason, finally, we get far enough away from her that we think we are out of her smell range, which, as we learned later, bears have terrible eyesight, and they rely on their sense of smell. So if she had smelled us, she would have moved on before we got there. The trouble was, too late for that. We were already like right on top of her, and she came charging toward us. And as we were backing up, by the way, I didn't tell you how this ended. So as we were backing up the trail, when Jason, I don't know how he thought to do this, his encounters with bears, his spirit animal, whatever you want to call it, he got off this deep from the bottom of his gut yell. He just yelled, hey, really loud. Never heard him yell like that. We had been in fights at that point, we yelled at each other, and I had never heard him yell like this. It was scary. So immediately that let her know that, hey, maybe this is a threat that I don't want to mess with. So she, as she was coming toward us, her ears were back, and she had, it was more of a defensive stride, right? And so when he yelled at her, she broke stride back toward, she didn't slow down. She just turned back toward her cubs, like real gradual, just made a big like U-turn back toward her cubs. And it was in that moment that I was like, holy shit, first of all, my life was just literally in my husband's hands, right? And thank God he knew what to do. And here's still me over here going, what does it mean to get small? I still don't understand, right? So I'm assessing all of this in my head. So as we continue back up the trail and we get back up to the creek, we kind of assessed and we're like, okay, I think it's safe to turn around and turn our backs. So we decided at that point we weren't going to continue back down that way because we didn't want to happen upon her again, because then it's not just a bear, it's a bear that you've now pissed off twice. So we decided that we would go back up to the PCT where the intersection of those trails met and head back down that way. And then, look for some kind soul to give us a ride back to our car at the other end of the other side of the trailhead, which was about, I don't know, 5 or 10 miles away. So I tell you all of this because this happened, I don't know, less than a month before our first backpacking trip in 2015. And the meadow, right? That open, vast expanse, which apparently is a cool place that bears like to hang out. Who knew? So as we were hiking with our friend who led us on this trip, he tells us as we're coming down into this meadow, I'm not thinking anything of it, but he goes, yeah, this is a meadow where you might like to see a bear hanging out. And I'm like, oh my God, too soon, dude, too soon. So this meadow was probably 2 or 3 miles long. So we had to hike through this whole thing, right? And it's not like you're going super fast with the backpack on. It's like, 25, 30-pound backpack. So I'm like, you could have waited till we were on the other side of the meadow to tell us that whole thing. Come on, dude. So the whole tie-in to this with fear is that I lived that whole first backpacking trip in a place of fear because of that meadow, because of what happened with that bear, because we were charged, because of all the things, right? And so since then, and granted, I'm not saying I haven't been fearful since, I definitely have. I've worked through a debilitating fear of heights, and through hiking, believe it or not, and having a very patient, thank goodness, very patient husband to help alongside of my paranoia and my fear, is that he has tagged along with me and encouraged me and sat with me when I cried. And I get so mad at myself because I know at the time I knew that my fear of heights was irrational, and I knew that I was safe, and I knew that being I'm a person of faith, right? So I believe that God has me, right? And it's not my time to go. So I was always walking in that. And so finally it came a point where, and I'm not saying I want to go like skydiving or anything like that. I mean, I certainly could. I don't have an interest in doing that. However, I mean, I could. So, I can now climb up to the peaks of mountains and not be like freaking out like I used to. I would get like, literally, it would debilitate me. I would stop in my tracks and have to turn back a lot of times. So I was allowing that fear to just grip on and hold me and dictate what I would and wouldn't do, and what I was comfortable with, and how I branched out and how I showed up. And I didn't like it. So I'm grateful that I have a patient husband that worked through that with me. And I share all of that to say today's exercise is that like how you feel when you are going out in your surroundings in nature, whether that's again in your backyard, on your patio, or if you're out, and you have an opportunity to get into a meadow. How are you feeling with that? How are you feeling with that open, vast expanse, right? Are you feeling vulnerable, or are you feeling protected and like feeling like you're, this is God's meadow and you're walking through it safely, or the universe or the creator, whomever it is that you believe? Good question, Barbara. I'm not sure which essential oil could have deterred her. I think just our human stench is what deters her. Seriously, though, I think it's just the smell of people. Like it's not that they don't like the way we smell. It's that they know they associate us with. We don't want to be around that, so they choose to scurry on. Yeah, it's kind of a funny experience to see them do that. Anyway, so yeah, I think not letting the fear grip us, right, and let us hold on to us, keeping holding steadfast to the fact that whatever your belief system is, God, creator, the universe, it has you protected in that meadow. That's how I like to think of it now. So when I hike down into a meadow and I can see that vast expanse where a bear might be hanging out, I feel comfortable knowing, I have my husband, the counterpart of the bear family, him and his spirit animal self. I have him, and I know that he has my back 100%, and I have his. And that experience in that meadow really was like the light shining through for me to have that moment of, oh my gosh, like literally my life is in your hands, and and vice versa, right? So I'm grateful for the experience because it definitely showed up in a way that I've never forgotten. And it's 5 years later. And oh, by the way, we're going on a backpacking trip this weekend right near where this experience happened 5 years ago. So that will be interesting. I'm sure I will have much to share next week when I come back. And I will for sure definitely share whatever comes up. So today, however the vast expanse of the meadow shows up metaphorically or literally for you, I would love to hear. Yes, yay for hubby, seriously, Coriani, thank God he had the peace of mind and the calm, because that helped us both remain calm and in the moment. We did definitely freak out when we got up to the top and took a break after we had the whole experience. We were like, oh, I think I need to go clean out my shorts now. It was quite funny. And we did find somebody kind enough to bring us back to our vehicle, by the way. We didn't have to walk that whole distance between the two trails. Thank goodness. Okay, so on to today's card for our self-care, sacred self-care. And today's card is really pretty. It's called Ground Yourself. And, oops, there you go. Ground yourself. And let's see. Today's mantra is, I am grounded, stable, and strong. Come to the present moment, connect with the earth, and stabilize yourself in a harmonic state through grounding. This practice helps you integrate higher messages and callings by bringing them fully into your physical body through the Earth's energy field. To ground yourself, sit or walk barefoot on the ground. Meditate on the sensation of connecting with the earth. Close your eyes and imagine your body growing roots into the ground. Visualize the roots going in all the way to the center of the planet. I'm going to share this with you so that you can see that, because it's very visual in this card. Picture yourself drawing in the energy from the earth's core and using it to nourish your mind, body, and spirit. When you open your eyes, allow yourself to feel calm, centered, and clear. You can also ground yourself by eating a nourishing meal that contains root vegetables, gardening, shaping things with clay, or spending time in nature. Find an activity that makes you feel fully present in your body and appreciative of the connection you have to the earth. Hey Trinity, thanks for joining. Hi Josie, yes, I still have to hear that story. You're gonna have to tell me. Find an activity that makes you feel fully present in your body and appreciative of the connection you have to the earth. I think I said that already. I'm reading it again. And here's the journal prompt. How do you feel after taking the time to connect with the earth physically and through a visualization meditation? So if you want to come back to this video and listen to it again as you do the practice in nature or in your backyard or while you're gardening or however it shows up for you, I would love to hear how it goes. And feel free to comment, share. Thank you guys all so much for being here with me. It's so fun to have a little group, like a little party. I hope you enjoyed today's chat and the stories about the bears. And I would love to hear how the challenge is going for you, what's showing up, and what you take away from today's lesson. I will see you tomorrow when we are onto the topic of grief, which is one that's very close to my heart. I think I've shared with you a little bit, and if you were here for the last challenge, you'll already know a little bit about that story, and I look forward to sharing that with you tomorrow. All right, I will see you then. Take care.